after winning 5 of their last 6 games. Have the North Carolina Tar Heels turned a corner? That depends on what you mean. Let's huddle up and talk about it.
You don't want none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ the Tar Heel, and I wanted to take some time and start a conversation about how Carolina fans feel about the trajectory of this 2024-2025 basketball team heading into the last half of the regular season. Now, Carolina had a brutal schedule on the front end, facing 5 teams that are currently in the top 12 in the country: Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Kansas, and Michigan State. And the Heels are 0-5 in those basketball games. But since the CBS Sports Classic game against the Florida Gators, Carolina has ripped off 5 of their last 6 against ACC competition and Campbell, with the lone loss coming at the KFC Yum Center against the Louisville Cardinals, who are currently in second place, tied with the Clemson Tigers. Now, in that span, just to put everything into perspective, Carolina has only averaged 77 points per game, and they're giving up 73. And we've seen 3 of those games in that span decided by 2 points or less, which Carolina is 3-0 in said games. And this comes at a time in which the Heels' Ian Jackson has scored 20-plus points, also in 5 of his last 6 games, and he's averaging 23.3 points per game in that span, to be precise. Now, RJ Davis at the front end was kind of struggling with his consistency, despite still being Carolina's leading scorer at 17.8 points per game. EC went through a phase where he was absolutely careless, just terrible with ball security, and Jay Wash had not yet emerged as the player that HD needed him to be. Fast forward to January 13th, man. During this 6-game stretch, RJ's averaging 16.2 points per game, still pretty good, 42.1% from the field, and he's still only shooting 35% from 3, which is still about 7 percentage points above his season average right now, which is under 30%. So, technically, RJ has been shooting the ball a little bit better. Elliot Cadeau is averaging 6.7 assists to 3 turnovers per game. Technically speaking, that's above a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Even though I still think that that's too many turnovers, for a point guard of his caliber. And Jalen Washington is averaging 4 blocks per game over his last 3 contests. So, to rehash the stated question, that's the whole point of this discussion. Has Carolina turned a corner? We also have to be careful not to compare this team, this Carolina team in specific, to previous Carolina teams, right? But we got to look at the current team against the current conference and the current competition that they're going to be going up against. And I think after you look at the individual and team production numbers, you need to look at the upcoming schedule. And just so it's out there, it's important to note that UNC is currently ranked 39th in the net after the state game. Now, we know that the ACC currently only has 1 ranked team, and that's number 4 Puke. And the conference in and of itself is just absolutely pitiful, if we're going to be completely honest with ourselves. So what does the future look like for the Heels? Well, let's take a look at the remaining schedule. Cal and Stanford at home, at Wake Forest, which is not going to be a pushover by any means, BC at home, and then somewhat of a murderer's row, if there was one, in the ACC this year. And that's when Carolina goes to Pitt, to Puke, at home against Pitt, and then at Clemson. Yeesh. Those are the 3 best teams, statistically speaking, in the Atlantic Coast Conference right now, aside from Louisville. So that's a tough stretch. And then they finish out with at Syracuse, the Wolfsack in Chapel Hill, UVA, at FSU, Miami, at Virginia Tech, and then they get the Dukies in the Dean Dome. Now, Carolina is currently 11-6, 4-1 in the conference, and they cannot afford too many more hiccups if they're going to go dancing. And my personal opinion is that UNC needs to at least finish 12-3, down the stretch in conference play. If they lose to puke both times, or at least 11-4, if they can at least split with Duke, so that they can have another quad 1 win, on their resume. And that would likely put them with that record in the top 4 for a double bye in the ACC tournament. And then they would need to at least probably win maybe one more game to absolutely solidify it, in my humble opinion. And I think that it's perfectly feasible, to be completely honest with you, but it's not going to be comfortable, okay? Because like I've said here recently, buckle up, guys, all right? There's going to be some more of these 1 or 2 possession games in Carolina's future, man, and I just don't think that they're going anywhere, although I do think Carolina can win a ton of them in the Atlantic Coast Conference against ACC competition, man. So the question is do you think that the Tar Heels have turned a corner by winning 5 out of 6? And then you let me know what you think that means, right? Pertaining to the Atlantic Coast Conference, pertaining to Carolina's, chances of going dancing, and even pertaining to Carolina being able to make a deep run. I'm very curious what Tar Heel Nation is thinking. So let me know what you think down in the comment section, Tar Heel Nation. And if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll catch you down there in the chat, Tar Heel Nation. It is a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll see you on the next one, baby.